Oh, yes. Welcome back, everyone. Today I'm bringing you a review for the new Marvel Legends Retro Spider-Man, Rhino, also known as Alexei Sitsevich. Rhino is a special addition to the second wave of Retro Spider-Man toys. As you can see, he comes in a very, very large bit of packaging. It's basically standard retro packaging, but blown up to be proportional to this very, very large figure. You can see my hand next to him, right? It's like bigger than my hand. So yeah, this was a rather unexpected addition. I was pretty stoked when I first, saw this thing get announced, and made sure to pre-order it. And now I have one, so I can review it for you guys. That being said, if you've seen my reviews before, you know how this goes. We're going to take a look at the Rhino's packaging, then we'll put it up, we'll see the figure itself, we'll check out its posability, its different accessories. Naturally, I'll be doing some group shots and comparisons today, and then at the end of the video, I'll give my final thoughts. So the Rhino comes in, as we said, an enlarged version of your Retro Spider-Man packaging, meant to evoke the classic 90s cartoon, rather than specifically the comics, though appearance-wise, they're more or less the same. We can see our figure inside this big old blister card right here. Got a big old grin on his face by, default, but he also comes with kind of like a little grumpy face, and then he comes with two alternate open hands. We get some nice artwork of Rhino done up in the style of the 90s cartoon right there with his name. And of course, he's, Marvel's Rhino, because Rhino is such a generic term. It's got like a little, action call out here. It says Rampaging Rhino, so that's pretty cool. Turn this around. We see the same artwork from the front up here in the corner. We see a little diagram of the toy showing you the swappable parts for it. And then we get a bit of flavor text right here. And this says, former Russian mafia muscle, the Rhino, possesses immense strength, near impregnable exo armor, and a stubborn grudge against Spider-Man. Yeah, he's apparently permanently bonded with his armor. I'm not sure how that works. How does the guy go to the bathroom? I really don't know. All right, and then down here we get our cross cells for the second wave. So if you're not familiar with that, we get the Spider Armor Mark 1, Hammerhead, Symbiote Spider-Man, which was a really big seller for this wave, Ben Reilly Spider-Man, aka future Scarlet Spider, Shocker, and then the Hobgoblin, who looks like he's going to break his ankles trying to ride his glider. I'm not really sure why they thought that looked good, but that's what they went with for the glider. Cheap as possible. So yeah, really very cool packaging. I think it's cool how they took the standard packaging and then just enlarged it. So everything's proportional. I think that's really, really neat. Because they could have just kept a smaller card and just had him take up more of the card, but they didn't do that. They made sure that they were able to fit the logo and the artwork and everything right on there. So I gotta give them props for being creative there. Now we see Rhino out of the packaging, and you can see he comes equipped with his closed fists as well as his gritting face right here. But then you get your two open hands with slightly different bends to the fingers, and then his more just kind of serious stoic face as optional parts. Now I should point out that this figure is actually just a partial retool of the Rhino Build-A-Figure from a much older Marvel Legends wave. Specifically, the head options as well as the shoulders have been altered. The heads just have different expressions than the old Build-A-Figure, plus they don't have the eye coverings that the old figure had. And then the shoulders have been changed from those that had an armor plating type effect on them to something, much more similar to how the Rhino appears in the old Spider-Man cartoon. Aside from that, from the best I can tell, everything else is identical mold-wise. He does also appear to be cast and painted in a lighter color, especially the gray compared to the Build-A-Figure, which again is just kind of keeping in with his animated aesthetic. All right, so when we check out the posability, his head can swivel back and forth on a ratchet, but it only gets 3 different positions. You get, neutral, and then looking slightly left, slightly right, and then clearance doesn't allow you to do much else. They could also look down and look up a little bit, so pretty cool. It's got universal shoulders, which ratchet on their rotation, but not on their outward swing. Or maybe they do. I don't know, is that a ratchet, or is it just... I guess there's a really soft click in there. That's interesting. He has a bicep swivel, which is nice. Just single bend elbows, which unfortunately don't bend very far. Universal wrists. He has an ab crunch, which doesn't lean back very far, but it can crunch forward on a single ratchet click. It's got a waist swivel. He's got universal hips that don't get a whole lot of outward movement, and then they can go back and forth as usual. A thigh swivel, single bend knees, which get pretty close to 90 degrees. And then he has his ankle rock and rotation. So most of your trappings of a standard Legends figure, just at a bigger scale than the norm. And overall very impressive looking. I really just love the way this guy came out. He manages to, at the same time, look like the character from the cartoon, but also have some of the more realistic trappings of the old Build-A-Figure, to where he doesn't look like he just, jumped right out of a cel-shaded cartoon and can actually fit in with the rest of your collection. So I think it's, just kind of a great compromise there. He can fit in with your other retro Spider-Man figures, but also just your collection as a whole. So something I would say he does better than, say, like the new animated series X-Men toys, which are, very, very cel-shaded and may look out of place in some collections. All right, now taking a look at his optional parts, we have the extra hands. Just pop these out. And the pegs for his hands are interesting. They're very short, stubby ones. I haven't seen that type of connector before. It's also really hard to just pull them straight out when you want to remove them. You got to kind of like bend them to pop them out. I'm not sure why exactly, but it seems to be the way to go with these. So you get that in there. Do this other fist too. Now, on my copy, this little lip around the mushroom peg there, it's bent up here. It doesn't seem to affect much of anything, but there's a weird little deformity. So, get this hand in. There we go. Kind of hard to get in there. And then the head, you pop out. So, look at the big old neck stump he's got there. Kind of weird looking. Pop this one in. And now you can just get some alternate poses for him. More relaxed hands and less angry looking face. This could be him, just kind of chilling, looking on at something, having a conversation. Or, of course, you can mix and match. Maybe have one closed fist, swap this in. Whatever you want to do. There's a decent number of options. It's not the most customizable thing. Just, one optional head, one optional pair of hands. We've seen more, but anything beyond that one extra set is really just a bonus in my eyes. Now here's a quick group shot with some of my heavy hitters in my collection. Whenever I get one of these large characters, I like to, check out their size and actually weigh them to see how they stack up against other similarly sized characters. Now last time when I did this for our 20th anniversary Hulk here. I actually had MODOK in the group. And MODOK is actually the heaviest toy that I have in Legends so far, but he also doesn't really fit in with the mold of just big, strong humanoid guys, so I kind of left him out of this. So you might be wondering, how much mass does this Rhino actually take up? How much bang am I getting for my buck? So I went and weighed him. He weighs about 345 grams, which is only 6 grams heavier than Thing here, despite the fact that he's a fair bit taller and a bit bulkier. So he seems to be a lot more hollow than Thing. And then our next figure up the list is our Hulk, which was about 430 to 440, and then Armadillo was even heavier than Hulk. So he's actually on the light side, despite being, fairly large. That's not saying he's bad in any way. I mean, he's incredibly stable, great tolerances, all that, great sculpted detail paint, but he is on the lighter side for, what you would expect of a toy this size. So if you are one of the people that does get hung up on, how much plastic am I getting for my, $20, $30, $40, just know that he may not be the same level of value as something like our Hulk here. And honestly, considering Thing sold for retail, just like your 20-something bucks, and this guy was about, 40 to 45, and he's only 6 grams heavier, he may not be the best value out there. So if you are someone who's on a tight budget, just be aware that you might not get exactly what you're expecting for your investment. And this completes our look at the new Retro Rhino. I think this is an excellent figure. I don't own the original Build-A-Figure, so for me, this is all new. It's all exciting and different, and I really just enjoy the posability, the texture detailing, the paint. I do think that you're not getting as much as you should for the price you're paying for this guy. I mean, he costs as much as Hulk, and Hulk comes with quite a bit more. It is a much bigger figure. So he's not, the greatest value, but if you're willing to part with the $40 or so, I think you'll very much enjoy your purchase. Now, if you own the original Build-A-Figure, I can understand not wanting to pick this up. There's not a whole lot of new stuff here to enjoy, Unless you're just, a real completionist, or you really, really want, an animated series or retro version of the character, then, I mean, you'll enjoy it. If you like the regular one, you'll like this one too. But he's probably not the most necessary thing for anyone that went out of their way and collected the original BAF way back in the day. So, excellent figure, maybe a little redundant. He's just kind of a re-release for people that never got a Rhino way back when and would pay a very pretty penny to get him now. And I think he fulfills that purpose very, very well. And even though he is a little on the expensive side, he's a lot cheaper than tracking down the old one. So overall, I highly recommend this guy. I think he's a great buy, even if he is a little overpriced. And the only way I would really say you don't need this in your collection is if you have the original. Of course, that is just my take on Rhino, so now I want to know what you all think of him. Do you think this is a great figure? Do you enjoy the changes that were made to him? Do you like the lighter color palette, the more retro or original look to his shoulders and his head and all that? Or do you not like this? Maybe the price is too high, maybe he's too redundant, maybe you just don't like the character's design? Any and all feedback, as always, is welcome in that comment section. If you enjoyed this review, make sure to toss it a like. Let YouTube know you want to see more stuff like this. If you do want to see more like this, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you always get a heads up when I post something new. I thank you for joining me for this very awesome look at the brand new Marvel Legends Retro Rhino. And with all that said, I will see you next time.